right, girly girl. All right, we're ready. Do you have a topic?
I have a question,
I love it. I love questions.
and it may not be a topic per se, but I feel like
Or this
it's
may be a Patreon scenario. We'll see what because I have a question, but it's definitely going on our Patreon. So
okay. Okay. And it falls a little bit in line with what we were talking about earlier, but I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday. Long story short, somehow um I had why did I go on? But I went on Facebook and a memory came up. And the memory was me in Lima. I had just landed in Lima the day before, and it was 3 years ago,
right before COVID.
literally. And I was laughing about it that I was like, so I'm literally going to read you what the post says because she wanted to see a screenshot of it. So I took a screenshot and I sent it to her. And the screenshot says, sometimes your soul just needs a change of scenery to refocus, realign, and recenter. Plus, if I'm going to be quarantined, which I'm not, thank God, if I'd only known, might as well have a beach and a beautiful sunset.
And a
And
hot Latin boy.
and a hot laugh, yes. But what was interesting is because she was the last person I saw, and then like 2 days. So that was on the 11th, and like on the March 15th, I lost my job. On the 17th, everything shut down. The airport shut down. I was stuck in Lima for 2 months. Like everything went into chaos. And I'm like, what's so interesting reading that post is that was all about my ex because he had just moved out. And it was more of like, I'm trying to move on, right? Like I'm just trying to reset and everything about my life. And I'm like, at that time though, I remember I had this conflict of like happiness because I'm in Lima. I had quit this toxic job that I no longer liked. I had sold my house. I was gonna, travel the world. I was like so excited, yet I was still dealing with a lot of pain from a lot of what had happened. I mean, the week before that post, my dog died. Moto had died March 3rd. He had moved out. I had a cancer scare, like all these things, and holding all of that. And her question, which I thought was an interesting one, which is what I'm going to ask you, is how do you think COVID has impacted the world?
I don't even think we know yet. I'm willing to admit that it has is impacting
Impact.
far beyond what my little limited mind can assess, to be perfectly honest. Right. And I think about and your story is just one
of many
tiny corner, right? And yours is kind of crazy because you were stuck in a foreign country to your homeland. Right? not a bad country, great country, but just different than having your mom close by or your dad close by.
Not being able to speak the language, right? It was like,
yeah,
holy shit, I don't know what the fuck is going on. I couldn't watch the news.
Yeah.
And
That's huge.
And then, well, then the fear of like, if I do get this virus, because we didn't know what the fuck it really was, right. If I end up in a hospital, I'm going to have to hope I get somebody who can speak English, or I'm not going to be able to communicate how I'm feeling, what's going on in my body, whatever. It was like I would have those moments of like panic of like, oh my God.
Yeah. Plus now so along those lines, one of the residual effects for me, well, one is now, I think we've discussed this. I've had COVID 3 times now. So the first time I got it, oddly enough, was February 18th, 3 years ago, right? And I got it, well, actually, I guess it was February 19th, technically, because I flew home from Reno. So I was on a plane, and then I went to a concert, which was Alter Bridge. I mean, if you're going to go out with Alter Bridge.
Go out with Alter Bridge.
That's my theory. And then 2 days later, I started coughing, and I was at work, and I was like, I just don't feel good. And then bam. So I think about the residual effects of that is, I still walk up a flight of stairs and I get to the top and I'm breathing heavy. Now, in all fairness, I am overweight, but I was overweight then and it didn't happen.
Yeah.
And I'm no heavier now and it does happen. So I'm like,
For
huh.
the long-term impact, yeah, like, and for people, that's what my mom keeps saying. She's like, 'cause we have a mutual friend and she's had it 3 or 4 times. She keeps getting it. And we know she's had one of the first shot, but we don't think she got any after.
Hmm.
And my mom is like, what is going to be the long-term health impact on this woman continuing to get it? Like,
And I
scar.
have gotten the extra shots. And I've had it 3 times. The middle time I had no symptoms. It did not affect me at all. I think for one day I felt a little slow, like I was sluggish, and that was it. But the third time, this last time, oh my God, knocked me on my ass
Remember.
badly. And so, yeah, I mean, I think about that. I'm like, well, and I live alone, right? And I want to live in a motorhome and travel around and do feed your soul. And I'm like, what if I can't do that? I mean, like, so the long-term effects of COVID, it means it is massively possibly disrupted my trajectory, which kind of makes me cranky. I'm not going to give up yet, right? Like, I'm not throwing in the towel, don't get me wrong, but I mean, it's killed people.
A
And
lot of people.
what about this, Freedom? Along those lines is like, now we think about things we've never had to think about before, right? Like stuff that, like getting stuck in quarantine in a foreign country, like probably would have never crossed your mind prior to this, right?
No, of course not. And now, I mean, since then, I've left the country once since then, and I'm going to leave the country this year. But I've been really hesitant. And I've become personally like way more of a homebody. Like I shouldn't say never. I've always had a little bit of homebody and like, I don't know, tendencies, but more so even now. Like I am super, like there's a comfort in just, and when I say home, I'm like in the city or like even just being in Phoenix or like just being in
Yeah.
the US.
Yeah, because, and it's not, I'm not saying because the US is a better country, but it is my country, right?
Right.
My
It's a difference.
friends, my family, my language, my philosophy, my mannerisms. So it's just a certain comfort level.
100%.
Yeah.
I never would have thought of that before. Like before, yeah, jet set, be on a plane in a heartbeat and be somewhere else. And now it's like it does make you think about it. And like the same conversation I'd had with these folks about that movie that we were talking about, the Malaysian Airlines, someone else was like, "Oh, have you watched?" I can't remember what it was called. I think it's some HBO Max show. The Among Us or The Last of. I think it's The Last of Us.
Oh, that's a
And
video game.
no, it's a show.
Yeah, no, it's based on a video game.
Oh, it is. Okay, I
Yeah,
didn't realize that. Okay. So, but he was like, do you all think that there's going to be like something even worse than COVID that can come? And it's like, yeah, it could
I do
totally
too.
happen.
Yeah.
It could totally happen. In fact, the New York Times did a whole thing about climate change, and the whole article was about how as the climate changes and the ice caps continue to melt, all these new molds and fungi and things that we've never dealt with are going to start coming to the ground, to the top, and it will start impacting. It could easily start impacting humans.
Easily. And you know what? Prior to COVID, I would have been like, no, you're crazy. I honestly would have said that. And I'm like, that's what they do in movies. It's always in a movie. I'm like, some idiot came up with that in a movie. And now I'm like, oh shit, man.
Yeah, you know what? That's what it is. It's almost like a nightmare movie came to real life.
It did. And I even recognize it. Like now I'm like, how many movies have there been about epidemics or pandemics breaking out? And you're just like, whatever. That was me, whatever. And now I'm like, nope, not whatever. I'm like, and then there's again, now this is again where we segment the population, right? There's a segment of the population that refuses to believe or even participate, right? Like in my mind, and this is what my issue is. Oh, look, we're going to turn this into a political conversation. I love that about us. My mind is, so really, how detrimental is it to you to maybe think about the shit you're throwing away in your trash can before you throw it away? Like, really, how is that infringing on your life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness? Would it kill you to say to yourself, I don't really need that plastic bag from that supermarket because I have tote bags in my car? Like, it's such a little tiny thing to change, and yet people adamantly refuse because it's all a lie. Even if it was, maybe even if the environment wasn't in danger, why is it a bad thing to use your own grocery bags?
Oh, 100%. I mean, and that's when my friend asked me that question about how I feel like COVID has changed the world. My response was like, and I guess I went half glass empty right away, but I was like, all we saw is like this attack on, what is the word? Like an attack on people who like knowledge.
Yeah.
Like you look at a Dr. Fauci or experts. That's what I said. I was like, I feel like there's this attack on experts where here's a man who's dedicated his life to public health. He is clearly not in it for the money. He's clearly done all these things for people. I mean, he was a huge part of the, discussions around AIDS and HIV in the 80s and 90s. And people can go on YouTube and think that they know more than this man does. And they're like poo-pooing on science and also this individualism, right? This individualism of Americans that are like, I'm not going to wear a fucking mask.
Yeah.
You can't, you're not going to tell me what to do, but yet you're possibly impacting other fellow Americans and hurting other people. And there's just this like, I don't want to.
Yeah.
Where in other countries, people do think about it.
And those people are irritating to me, I got to tell you. So, but I also am learning that those people exist. And if we want to survive as a species, we may have to learn how to talk to those people. And that's irritating to us, right? Like, and that can be irritating. But again, like for me personally, what I'm always reminding myself of is, where do I want to go? Like, where am I headed? What do I want to accomplish?
Yeah.
And that may mean, but that's what makes me a Democrat more than a Republican, right? Is I'm like, wow, there's a whole planet of people out there, and I'm just one of them. One.
Yeah.
So I think, wow, I often think, wow, what a great place this planet would be is if we actually realized there are other people out there.